Shalom, all praises to the Most High, all praises to His holy name. Back again. This is, first of all, they placed this on my door. Then, as I was riding my bike, having to run into this lady that I run into a lot. She's probably retired from probation by now, but she said she worked for probation, and I see her all the time. And it is my observation that a lot of these people that's around me all the time are actually probation officers, or either probation officers, or either they're retired probation officers. They're also in other kind of governmental services. So I stopped and talked to her for a minute. And she already told me they got to treat me in good faith. So I went over this they stuck on the door. This don't look official at all. It's not addressed to me. Not even addressed to my person. So really, it's nothing. It's just something on the door. So I could have just threw it in the trash, and that's it. They said action required. My action could have just been take it off the door and throw it on the ground. That was an action. Let's go over some definition. I put on there also when they posted, I put on there, I object to all bad faith actions. And then I signed it. And I said, since you're coming, fix the leak in the refrigerator and fix the dishwasher. I said, I object to all bad faith actions. So then, since I was riding my bike, I went up to the front just to talk to the lady that was there. And I explained to her that I expect good faith actions. And she agreed. But then she said, in order for them to fix something, that's a different department. My experience in the past has been when people say it's a different department, especially dealing with these people, I only want the good faith department. Because the people that operate in bad faith, I don't want that department. And I object to that. Also, I object to the term project. I don't want to be a part of their project. But then let's go over some terms. Actions, Black Law's Dictionary. What is an action? Or what is action? Definition of action in Black Law's Dictionary: conduct, behavior, something done. That's why I try to tell you, since this was not addressed to me, nor to my person, nor to anything that's associated with me, my action was to throw it in the trash. That's all they said, action required. But I said, since it's not really addressed to me, nor anything has to do with me, I'll just take it and use it to go over some terms as far as definitions. Conduct, behavior, something done, the condition of acting, an act or series of acts. And this says French commercial law, stock in a company or share in a corporation. And I said, wait a minute. Let me hold on for a minute. Because then they start going to other terms. I start going for terms, and I'm going to explain once I read all these things, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Practice. The legal and formal demand of one's right from another person or party made and insisted on in a court of justice. Smith-Webster Company versus John C.C.A.Pa 259 F 549 551 Dinsmore v. I never had a stock in the company. The legal and formal demand of one's right from another person. See, only people that can really demand anything from person to person are corporations. Or people, or man to man, or corporation to corporation. Neither one of them address me. So I object to it. Because it don't have nothing about my name in any fashion on it. It don't even have any signatures from any person on it. Nor any person's name on it. Like they always do. Just stick someone on the door. So they never addressed me nor my person or anything. So I object to it. All right. So a lot more I could read, but for the sake of time, let's go with some other thing. Black law's definition for required. Any demands, constraints, needs, necessities needed to be met. See, they already painted the balcony of my dwelling, where I'm dwelling. So they don't do that. They don't paint it and then have another project to come paint it again. That sounds like bad faith. That don't sound like that's something that's de jour. Then it says, dear neighbor. Who is that? It says, we are happy to announce that the paint project is nearing its final stage. In an effort to improve your patio deck appearance, we will be painting your patio deck floor between 4/27/23 to 5/2/23. Our vendor will be painting your patio deck area. They put this in orange. I choose not to participate in their color projects because color is something that they play around with. I'm free to operate in any color because the Most High created all colors. My preference is blue. I like black. And none of those colors represent my nationality. But in their scheme of things, the way they operate their corporation and their citizens, in their new world order that they try to bring about, that's their color means they're labeling their subjects and classifying them according to however they see fit to qualify them in their corporation, whether how they treat you. Well, I'm not in your corporation. I'm an American Israelite from the tribe of Ephraim, from the house of Joseph. Your corporation is here to serve me. I'm not here to serve it. So since you're playing games, according to the Roman Catholic private attorney, you're actually supposed to just give me everything free. I'm not supposed to be paying anything. According to and you people don't understand, I'm not talking to you because I'm talking to people that know what I'm talking about. They know, according to them, I'm not supposed to be paying anything. The corporation is already supposed to pay for it. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to keep on going through terms, and I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. It's a reminder that pets are not allowed in the balcony deck. Well, if that's the case, why do everybody in this dwelling, in these apartment complexes have pets in their homes or in their dwellings and on their patio. One time I had a scooter out there, and before I really knew about these things, they asked me to take my scooter off the balcony, and I'm looking out. They had all kind of stuff on their balcony. They got gas cookers, barbecue pits, and all kind of things. And my scooter got gas too. So what's the difference? That's harassment. They got pets all in their dwellings, all on their balconies. And they just right here, they say reminder that pets are not allowed in the balcony area. I'm not here to try to get nobody in trouble, but if you're gonna try to harass me, and I even told the lady up front, I say, look, lady, I'm not here to harass you. And I asked her, did I offend her? She said no. And I told her I want good faith, and she said, well, when they come to fix it, that's a different department. Yeah, well, send the good faith department to fix the items. And she said they're not going to charge me for those things. And then I asked her, why are you going up on rent all the time? But since they playing those games, let's come out to the true matter. I'm not supposed to be paying rent at all. I'm an American Israelite. Somebody might say, man, why you snitching? I ain't snitching on nothing. If they don't start none, won't be none. I'm just going to put an end to all the foolishness. That's all I'm talking about. It said, what is the definition for required? Any demands, constraints, needs, necessities needed to be met. So that's since only thing need to be met is to come in here and fix that refrigerator and that dishwasher. And while I'm at it, they need to come and fix that hot water. I forgot to tell her that, but they listening because they be playing with the hot water heater and cold water be coming out, and if not, you gotta turn it all the way hot, and you might get some warm water. That's a violation. That's harassment, especially when everything's supposed to be paid for, and even if I do pay it, then I'm not supposed to be paying it according to even their corporation service contract through the Constitution for America. Me being an American Israelite from the tribe of Ephraim, I'm not supposed to be paying anything. That's why they're here, to serve me. And I wouldn't be saying none of these things if they stop harassing me. So when they're harassing me, then I got to bring out the law of the land on record. But let me continue. Then it says project. Definitions for project, law definition for project means specific activities of the grantee that are supported by the funds provided under this contract. Project means a temporary process undertaking to solve a well-defined goal or objective with clearly defined start and end times to set a clearly defined tasks and a budget. Did a video earlier today where the Most High was talking about, he said the elect through faith, which is good faith, receives grants. So who is the grantee? Lawful definition for grantee is the buyer, recipient, new owner, or lien holder. When versus appears on legal documents, the grantor is the bottom and the grantee is on the top. So they said a project means specific activities of the grantee that are supported by the funds provided under this contract. Project means a temporary process undertaking to solve a well-defined goal or object which clearly defines starts and ends times, the set of clearly defined tasks, and a budget. So according to the Most High, talking about grants, and they talking about they're happy to announce the project on my balcony. That means that will make me the grantee. So are they telling me that they've granted this whole apartment complex to me? Well, if you did that in good faith, I don't expect to be paying them on bills from you. You got it covered. Come fix my stuff in good faith. The grantee is the buyer, recipient, new owner, or lien holder. When versus appears on a legal document, the grantor is on the bottom and the grantee is on the top. Petitioner is the grantee and respondent is the grantor. Grants mean to give or to transfer something to someone with or without payment. Well, you already paid it. It's already paid for. So if you granted it to me in good faith, hey, praise the Most High. In real estate transactions, the recipient of a property is called grantee. The person who transfers the ownership of the property to someone is called the grantor. Thank you. So I don't anticipate any more problem. Come fix my stuff. We're going to go over some documents just to go in this. This is from that final judgment in civil orders was finalized from the Roman Catholic Pope prior to turning from April 11, 2014. All interest, good faith service, and accrual on investment owed to the living people as the beneficiaries entitlement holders of their own estates is due and owed to them and their heirs without exception or prejudice by the officers and administrators of the United States of America Minor, with city-state Westminster, and the United Nations. Be it also known that these and other individual Americans now exercise their birthright upon the land of their organic states united by the Articles of Confederation 1781, that they have the full and unimpeded right to act as judges of these organic states, to issue orders related to their administration, and to demand compliance with all articles of the National Trust Indenture and Commercial Service Contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America, and all related international treaty provisions owed to us by the United States of America Minor and the United Nations and the city-state of Westminster, and any successor executors, administrators, corporate officers, elected or appointed officials, Let me look for some real fast. Let's continue. I had a thought. That's what it came to my head. And I said, let me look for that real fast. I'm gonna look for it. I'm gonna be right back. Hold on. It's over there, but I just can't find it right now. Let's see. Look at you in your face real fast. So there's another document. That said the same thing like this keychain they gave me. Say, welcome home. That same thing that the document states from the Roman Catholic Church part of the attorney says. Once you become who you're supposed to be as an American, it's like, welcome home. See, that's what they're doing. That's the games they're playing. Welcome home. So, if you granted me this apartment complex, the one thing this key right here did was it allowed me to enter into the front building. And I know there's a lot of people used to knock, but then I was able to just open the door and go in the gym area in different places. So, like I said, I object to all bad faith actions. But anything that's in good faith in my favor, I accept. Because after all, everything's supposed to be in my favor. According to their service contract. So let's continue. And according to the service contract, I don't expect to see any of the bad faith side ever approach me again. Because that's what they mean. That's how I found that out in 2017. They have two sides operating. They used to always give you when you call, you're talking to one side. And then once they find out that you don't know anything, that you have an inkling about what's really going on, then they try to send you to supervisor. Then the supervisor try to send you to another department, the other side. Well, I don't ever want to talk to the bad faith side ever again. Just know that when you're dealing with me, I'm dealing with the good faith side, according to your own acknowledgments. So I'm not going to ever have no more bad days. There could be no more Satan added to me. But let's go over a few things on this document I was reading. The final judgment of civil orders of April 11, 2014. All interest, good faith service, and accrual on investment owed to the living people as the beneficiaries and entitlement holders of their own estates is due and owed to them and their heirs without exception or prejudice by the officers and administrators of the United States of America minor, the city-state of Westminster, and the United Nations. Be it also known that these and other individual American nationals, Americans, be it also known that these and other individual Americans now exercise their birthright upon the land of the organic states united by the Articles of Confederation, that they have the full and unimpeded right to act as judges of these organic states, to issue orders related to their administration, and to demand of compliance with all articles of the National Trust Indenture and commercial service contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America, and all related international treaty provisions owed to us by the United States of America minor and the United Nations and the city-state of Westminster, and any successors, executives, secretaries, administrators, corporate officers, elected or appointed officials, trustees, agents, agencies, franchises, franchise operators, and employees thereof, now and in perpetuity. Once again, I always object to anything she says contrary to the word of God, which is the law of the land. And I've already established those things in other videos, so I'm not going to have to keep on saying those things. Just go to those videos to reference. The entities addressed under the final notice of commercial and administrative default dated February 3rd, 2014 are all competent and recognize their culpability and failure to perform under commercial service contract, failure to honor the national and state trust indentures, and failure to provide full and free disclosure of contracts solicited by the named governmental services corporations and agencies cited for default. Absent of full disclosed and actual maritime contracts entered in evidence and subjected by the court to examination and open discussion, no valid contract can be presumed to exist. And no American estate or other vessel can be prosecuted under any maritime or admiralty jurisdiction. No contract based on unilateral, uninformed, or undisclosed, or otherwise prejudicial claim of residency, benefit, status, license, mortgage, or other contract lacking true equitable consideration and consent can be maintained with regard to the estates of the Americans who are living inhabitants of the land and air jurisdictions of the Global Estate Trust, and not naturally subject to the jurisdiction of the sea. Now there's no more sea. Why? She said because in the 40 years of European meddling, that's over. And she said we're finally able to come back to our land and our natural air, land, and sea jurisdiction. According to the Roman Catholic Pope's confessions and notation that he had treated us like cattle for 150 years ago. With all names, whatever form they're written in, uppercase, letter, smaller case, all high case, whatever case. The case of the matter is, they've all been returned to me, including every dime that they made from each of those transactions they made in any form of my name that all been given back to me. Without debt, encumbrance, or any such thing. So therefore, I shouldn't have to be paying for nothing. Since you're playing, let's go ahead and tell the truth. All such Americans who are inhabitants of the land and their estates are additionally protected by treaty and national trust and are owed safe conduct for themselves and their commercial vessels on the high seas and navigable inland waterways. For military tribunal purposes, all American persons and commercial vessels are non-combatant civilian third parties. All provosts, marshals, all members of the civilian police forces, all members of the American military, all members of state-operated National Guard units, all members of government agencies, including the U.S. Marshal Service, FBI, state troopers, BLMs, BATF, IRS, and other code enforcement agents, are ordered to recognize the civil authority of the organic 50 states created by statehood compacts and united under the Article of Confederation, and to also recognize the absolute civil authority of the American people inhabiting these organic, geographically described states in all matters pertaining to them and administration of their domestic government on the land known as the United States of America Major, not to be confused with the United States of America Minor, which is a foreign maritime entity under commercial contract to provide governmental services for the United States of America Major. All police and military officers are obligated to honor the law of the land. I told you about that time when I spoke to that man that was operating as a sheriff, and when I questioned him, he said he was operating in good faith. All police and military officers are obligated to honor the law of the land in all dealings. The law of the land is the word of God. We've established that already. All police and military officers are obligated to honor the law of the land in all dealings with or pertaining to the organic states and their living inhabitants without exception. Noting that these people and states are owed the terms and conditions of the original equity contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America and are to be addressed under American common law exclusively, and that they retain their natural and inalienable rights Remember, he said, black people, you've been duped. Well, you're not talking to a black people right here. You're talking to an American Israelite from the house of Joseph and the tribe of Ephraim. And that they retain their natural and unalienable rights, including their natural identity, property rights, and controlling interests without prejudice, and regardless of fraud and monopoly inducement practiced against them in breach of trust and contract default. I can stop right there, but I'm going to keep on going. All actions of the various probate courts operating in the maritime jurisdiction and merely presumed death based upon the actions of American national beneficiary of the American Republic and serving to establish maritime salvage liens against their estates are by these orders invalidated, made null and void. All Americans whose names and estates are presently included on tax rolls and who are recorded by census data, school records, birth certificates, and other public documents must be presumed to be alive and competent in the absence of a properly sworn death certificate signed by the local coroner stating cause of death. Date, time, and place corroborated by at least 2 responsible and knowledgeable living witnesses. And if you're on this land and you're not an American, you're not competent. So there is automatically, I'm alive. Because if you're on this land and you're not an American, you are a United States citizen. So you're not competent. You got to go back to wherever you came from to be competent. That ain't America. She just told you. Give me my stuff. Stop playing with it. In the case of legitimately missing people, diligently search and fully disclosed publication of all claims against their estates must be made by giving notice to at least, Salakia, to the last known address and next of kin. Well, that's why my son and his mother, who was my ex-wife, that's why they contacted them about my uncle's estate, who I'm the heir. Going to release that immediately so I can go in and bless my children like I told I was going to do them, and I can get on about my business. Any contrary presumption or practice is fraudulent, null, and void. Any action of the probate courts operating in the maritime jurisdiction and making claim upon actual real assets of similarly named Americans in behalf of legal fiction missing persons owned by the United States of America, Inc., United States Federal Reserve, or any franchise or agency thereof are similarly rendered null and void. Therefore, I claim my uncle's estate as well as my own, because it's mine. And I ain't done nothing criminal. I'm just doing what knowledge told me to do. Once created legal fictions do not have any necessary or valid estate, such estate as they may legitimately be granted must be obtained under conditions of fully revealed and disclosed contract entered into voluntarily and with explicit individual understanding and consent. Any estate obtained by legal fiction entities by process of Semitic deceit or undisclosed contract belongs in fact and law to those defrauded. These civil orders command and require the return of all titles to the land, homes, and properties and businesses which have been held under color of law by the Federal Reserve doing business as the United States of America, Inc., and their bankruptcy trustee. the Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, and their administrative agents, including the custodian of alien property and Comptroller General. All separate registrations under the Shepard-Towner Act and the Selective Service Act of Americans and their progeny by agents of the United States of America Minor, DBA, the United States of America, Inc., and its various state franchises and subsequently maintained by state franchises of the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund, are invalid as class for anything but traditional recording purposes. And the benefit of any securities based in whole or in part upon these and any other involuntary or undisclosed registrations, such as vehicle registrations or private property, benefiting the individual American who are the lawful entitlement holders of all commercial vessels operated under their given names by any corporation providing governmental services, including banks. All vessels in commerce operated under the names of Americans are owed full treaty trusteeship obligations from the United States of America Minor and the United Nations, and all franchises and agencies which these nation states operate worldwide. These civil orders command performance, delivering unto Caesar upon the land, including return of all real assets and property owned to Americans, free of claim, debt, and encumbrance created under conditions of fraud, breach of trust, and breach of commercial contract. All judges, attorneys, clerks, and other employees of incorporated courts or court systems, together with the international bank employing them, which have knowingly failed to fully and freely disclose their nature, identity, status, jurisdiction, standing, and venue, are subject to international criminal prosecution for felony fraud under full commercial liability, and officers of the law and military law officers who enforce illegal actions ordered by these in-house international commercial tribunals against Americans at the request of any such court are responsible for war crimes committed against non-combatant civilians as of September 1st, 2013. Look what they did to me in 2017. Came and took me to jail, took my DNA, took all my property, gang stalking. And all this on the record. All politicians and trust management organizations, employees acting directly or via franchise or agency who have been elected or appointed to private corporate offices within governmental services corporations, their franchises or agencies, and who have knowingly pretended to occupy public offices in the American organic states and who have transgressed beyond their limited and private authority are fully liable for impersonating American public officials while acting as private corporate officers. The property I had in Lancaster, California, they came and made me get out of my dwelling there, and they already know it was granted to me. But they used intimidation tactics that literally almost gave me a heart attack. I was afraid for my life because I didn't know what was going on. And they was using these quote unquote sheriff officers, police officers, and different ones to do it. Even sent, this is what really got me, because they supposed to be making sure that you don't get affected by the color of law. The department what is it called? Department that issues the warning against color of law. What is that called? It'll come back to me. And they the one came and arrested me in private car trucks. And I ain't even commit no crimes. And they used a woman from the church when I was in the process and I was going through the gang stalking. My mind wasn't clear, so I end up marrying her in their courts. But I wasn't in my right mind at the time because I was confounded, I was confused, frightened, and all kind of things going on. Heart about to bust out my chest, harassed, coerced, violated. But the Most High allowed her to leave, which was even in not Black Law Dictionary, but Bouvier's Law Dictionary, she left about 3 times, so that was called malicious abandonment. So the Most High allowed me to escape that situation from her. But what did she do? I made a video at the time, and all I did was use a quote from the Bible where the Most High said he was going to destroy them. And they used that to say that I was harassing her, or that I threatened her. And based on that, they tried to give me a restraining order. And the restraining order had no signatures on it. No wet signatures. It looked like this. So if somebody was coming back saying, we was just playing, now you don't play like that, that could have killed me. And they still doing it today. You can't play with somebody like that because what if somebody had a heart attack and died or something? Oh, I'm sorry, we were just playing though. No, you don't play like that. It's called gang stalking. So I object to any claims they ever had against me, fraudulent arrest, the claim of having a restraining order in order for them to come and take my firearms. I object to all that. None of that stuff exists. They got it on record with no wet signatures on any of the documents. All federal and federal franchise state employees who have willfully and knowingly conspired to misinform, mislead, mortgage, indebt, extort credit from, otherwise undermine the material interests of Americans via non-disclosure, fraud, racketeering, force of arms, extortion, compulsion, semantic deceit, and constructive unlawful conversion are guilty of international war crime against unarmed and non-combatant civilian inhabitants of the land and against commercial vessels belonging by birthright and copyright to those inhabitants. The United States of America Minor and the city-state of Westminster and its franchises, employees and agents are ordered to comply with all stipulations and limitations required by the original equity contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America when addressing Americans. See, she told you can only deal with me in good faith. Went to the dentist, he packed my jaw all with cement, and then after you do it, so you know they got to come out, right? Why are you going to do something like that? You didn't tell me it had to come out. Why would you put it in there? So what I'm supposed to do? You use the Ferguson meal in the first place to make my jaw, because the first time I went to a dentist, they put some in my tooth. A root canal not supposed to hurt. That's why they take out the root. But whatever they put in there in place of it, I felt like my head was about to explode, which caused me to go to the dentist. And then that's when they did that to me. Packed my jaw with all kind of stuff in it. These are devils, man. And I already let them know I was an American in 2017, which they already knew in the first place, but I let them know who I was, and they still was doing it. And they stopped. And I already told them to cease and desist all bad faith activity. Did they stop? And we're providing any and all governmental services to Americans, inhabitants of the land of domestic geographically defined 50 states. They are likewise commanded to release all titles and claims held under color of law against the estates of the American states and the Americans inhabiting the organic states of the Union. All incorporated governmental services organizations must immediately cease all actions against the material interests of their employers and creditors. I read that before. They said they was trying to kill their creditors, which was quote unquote the black people or the colored people, before they can come home. But it's too late now. We home. At least I am. But I've give full disclosure to anybody that's an American Israelite to come home too. They know how to do. All you gotta do is confess with your mouth and believe in your heart. All incorporated governmental services organizations must immediately cease all actions against the material interests of their employers and creditors, the Americans, states, and people, and settle all accounts. There are no so-called war powers allowed to any member of Congress representing the United States of America Major, which has remained at peace since 1865. So I also told you that they even put this on record when I worked for the probation department, that they send my medical records to at least 30 some employees. None need to know my medical record. HIPAA violation. They even gave me a copy of it. And I gave it to that attorney who taught me about good faith. They're all in records. Not counting all the harassment and everything they've been doing. That's all on record. Likewise, there are no emergency powers granted by any of the organic states, no indefinite detainment provisions applicable to any American under the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012 or any similar act of Congress. All acts of Congress undertaken without full commercial liability and not fully enacted as public law apply only to the employees and citizens of the United States of America. Mind it. See, this stuff don't apply to me. And no claim of employment or U.S. citizenship made by the United States of America minor against any inhabitant of the land of the 50 states can be maintained on the basis of undisclosed, unilateral or second party contract or presumption in violation of the actual American public law governing U.S. citizenship, U.S. statute at large, too. Any deliberate or semantic use of the given name of any living individual, man or woman, by any incorporated entity pretending to represent them, or their material interest to create legal fiction entities operated under and in for their name without full knowledge and consent of that individual. That's why I try to tell you when I make I already made a video, and my intent is to go ahead and make a document for travel. It's called what did I call it? I think about it. My travel passport. But these corporations try to make it so that you got to register everything and not give you an opportunity to just go in and make it. So I understand their registration process, and by right, they have the obligation to go ahead and serve me without trying to subjugate. So I've given you full disclosure. That's my intent, and I'm not acquiescing. I'm just using the service like it's supposed to be used. Overstanding their attempt to try to subjugate, which is unlawful and not legal either. That goes for anything. I can use any service. Even the address, their address, I can use it. That's their address. To receive anything I want to receive, that's my right to do. And I can't be subjugated by using it. That's how they track things as far as location to send items. Any deliberate or systematic use of the given name of any living individual, man or woman, by any incorporated entity pretending to represent them, even on Facebook when they have those, and Twitter and Instagram and everything else, when they have the avatars and they have agents behind them faking to be other people. I object to all that. Even when I go get the phone in the past, they'll try to, even my computers, they'll try to block things and pretend to be people when I'm texting, and they texting back, but it ain't really people I'm texting. That's all bad faith action. I object to it and stop doing it. Any deliberate or systematic use of the given name of any living individual, man or woman, by any incorporated entity pretending to represent them or their material interests to create legal fiction entities operating under and in and for their name without the full knowledge and consent of that individual is prohibited abuse of the rights of usurper. All such acts, proposals, programs, and agencies created by the United Nations and by the United States of America minor addressed to Americans seeking to conscript, obligate, indept, misinform, or entrap them into any contract whatsoever in which the identity and true nature of the parties is obscured, not in kind, or in the actual terms, claims, and conditions and results of the contract are not made explicit, plain, and fully revealed, or null and void ab initio, as if they never were. All representations serving to misappropriate the good faith and credit of Americans and their organic states in favor of any incorporated entity are self-interested, null and void. All registrations, licenses, application process, and similar devices used by the Federal Reserve, DBA, United States of America, Inc. That's why she also revealed it just returns back to its unincorporated status as far as business. Everything has been returned to me. That was mine. Going back into its de jure form. And I don't need a license. or any of those things. But it said be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Because we see that they got people that still just want to do wrong. So if I got to use a license by this to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, then what I'm going to do is, like I did on the passport, not for hire. Exempt, not for hire. See, the devil is always sitting around trying to find a way to do evil. But they, based on everything that's been acknowledged and admitted, there's no room for anybody to do anything that's wrong anymore by them. They can't get around these things. All registrations, licenses, application process, and similar devices used by the Federal Reserve, DBA United States of America, Inc., and International Monetary Fund, DBA United States, and the Federal Reserve, now operating as an entity incorporated under the United Nations offices, and their various agencies and state franchises are fraudulent, null and void, contrary to public law of the United States of America major and the individual free states. Talked about the other day that the quote unquote they call fiat notes or money, quote unquote. The true Americans, I can use the fiat money, using terms, fiat as money. And since I already told them in 2017 to make sure it's turned into lawful money, when I use fiat notes or whatever, it turns to lawful money when I use it. Any undeclared agent of the United States of America minor or the United Nations caught soliciting such contracts will be arrested, prosecuted, and deported, and no further enforcement of such contracts will be allowed on the soil of the United States of America major against any birthright inhabitant of the land. Such foreign, repugnant, and misrepresented commercial contracts include, but are not limited to, vehicle registration, driver's licenses, marriage licenses, voter's registration, applications for welfare and medical and insurance benefits, including Social Security insurance, claims of foreign citizenship, or foreign personage, residency, mortgages, and public employees' retirement benefits. But then, even in that, she said they can't claim that against the Americans because that's owed to us. I already read that to you before. So what do I do if I go buy a new car or a truck or anything like that and they try to make me register? Well, they already know they're not supposed to do it. They're supposed to let me go and get my truck, a car. And that's that. But they still try to make you do it. So what do I do? Go on to buy the truck, get it, and then unregister it. Because you can't prevent me from having service because you don't want to be right. It's my right to buy a car or a truck. Just because you in bad faith don't mean I'm in bad faith. It's my right to use services. Parents are not enabled to in-depth pledge, conscript, or otherwise enter their children into any form of bondage, debt, peonage, or enslavement. Any and all relinquishment of individual or parental rights must be voluntary, fully disclosed, completely enumerated, fully discussed, and the real natures and actual identities of all parties to any custodial, commercial, or grant contract of any kind whatsoever, like any agency appointed, must in all detail be fully revealed and disclosed, explicitly discussed, explicitly agreed upon and voluntarily entered into by all parties. They let you know that when you was born, the mother didn't know what she was doing, and the child wasn't of any age to agree, so that's all null and void. Talking about the birth certificate. Any contracts failing these requirements and merely being presumed to exist via tacit agreements, third-party representations, or presumed benefit are null and void. These civil orders require that all law enforcement and military officers currently in the employment of the United States of America minor, the city-state of Westminster, and the United Nations, together with the commercial companies under contract to provide services within the 50 states of the United, for fully and freely informed of these facts and the limitations that are fully applicable to them and the operations on American soil, all Americans are to be considered non-combatant third parties without exception, who are owed peace and protection and performance upon all commercial contracts, treaties, trust indentures, and agreements entered into with the Global Estate Trust and its members, franchises, and agencies. These civil orders also require that corporate administrative tribunals, being operated as courts of any kind, explicitly and fully declare their identities. So I can read that again. These civil orders also require that corporate administrative tribunals, being operated as courts of any kind, explicitly and fully declare their identities, natures, venues, services, ownerships, and proper jurisdictions in plain, explicit, fully revealed language, with no further purpose of evasion, obstruction, or lack of good faith service. They are additionally commanded to scrupulously observe their limitations and to clearly state their foreign jurisdictions whenever addressing Americans. These civil orders come without the United States of America minor, without the United Nations, without the city-state of Westminster, without representation, without prejudice. That's what the Most High said, come out here, my people. When he said, come out here, my people, that don't mean you're not supposed to be getting served. You can't be mistaken for them. Notice the agent knows the principal, knows the principal knows the agent. This final judgment and civil orders are issued upon our civil, commercial, and canon authority. Well, the Most High said his people, we're not limited to canon, because he gave us the northern kingdom, the fullness of his law. By our living hands and our testament jointly sworn and witnessed, by our seals and autographed by their Pope Francis, and all nations declaring that the truth of these matters has been established by due process without rebuttal, and that they have been decided this 11th day of April 2014. They said, we hereby autograph, seal, and issue this final judgment in civil orders to all officers, appointees, agents, franchises, agencies, subsidiaries, and employees of the United States of America minor, the city-state of Westminster, and the United Nations operating on the land of the 50 organic states of the United States of America major, and subject them to the performance of all treaties and contracts owed as employees, public servants, trustees, administrators, commissioned officers, and all in any capacities whatsoever would allow their presence on our soil and which provide for their strictly defined and limited use of our property. But it takes she said, it takes a sovereign to sign this off. And because the Most High said, and saviors, judges should come up on Mount Zion to judge them out of Esau, that's what I'm doing. So I signed it off in good faith. Autograph. Only those things that the Most High says, though. I don't autograph anything she's saying. that's contrary to his word concerning his people. Let's read some more things. See what it says. It's the global estate trust is over 400 years old. It was older than the United States of America is today when the United States of America was formed. It has organized the entire planet according to its system of postal districts, also called federal districts in America. The Global Estate Trust and the services provides legal service, banking service, police services, postal services. It's so ubiquitous. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Ubiquitous, I'm sorry. It's so ubiquitous, so integrated worldwide that we take its existence for granted and wrongly think that our individual government provides all this. The truth is that the so-called federal government in America has always been owned and operated as a private for-profit governmental service company, operating under contract to provide certain stipulated government services. And later in history, has been operated as an umbrella corporation with subsidiaries created as franchises and agencies under subcontract to provide these same services by the Global Estate Trust and its natural subsidiary. It says, side note, in the 18th century, when the original equity contract known as the Constitution for the United States was drawn up, the word federal was a synonym for contract. So the nature of the government as an entity under contract to provide services was apparent to the people. The state legislature formed to represent the land jurisdiction as separate nations, the larger equivalent of city-states, and the people inhabiting these organic states were clearly aware of the subservient nature of the federal government in all matters not clearly delegated to it, as were founder and framer of the Constitution. Article X clearly reserves all other rights to the states and the people. In summary, our entire planet receives governmental services from one gigantic interlocking trust directorate, the Global Estate Trust. The gentleness with which generations of popes have exercised their power as the ultimate trustee should not be mistaken for lack of power, but rather as respect for free will and reluctance to interfere with those entrusted to administer their own affairs. In the temporal realm of a pope is a man like any other man. It is often difficult to obtain all the facts and to assure of right action. Restraint and tolerance have therefore been hallmarks governing the exercise of temporal power by the popes for many decades. We are now entering upon a time when corruption and criminality have so far progressed among many governmental services corporations worldwide that maintaining the role of global trustee has required action by the Pope and the Holy See. Over time, specialized services centers organized as separate city-states have taken over specific aspects of the operation of the Global Estate Trust. This so-called empire of the city spans the globe. Rome and the Vatican City remain home base for operations responsible for overall administration worldwide. That was back then. The inner city of London, also known as Westminster, is a separate, independent international city-state within London, and is home to Crown's Temple, which administers legal services, and that's also home to Fleet Street Hub of international banking services. The District of Columbia, another city-state, is the center of defense and police services worldwide. The United Nations, yet another separate independent city-state, is the hub of international trade, aid, and negotiations. Over the course of time, delivery of these many services has been organized by separate for-profit corporations and organizations operating in each country under the auspices of an umbrella trust management organization functioning as the national government. Almost all national governments have been incorporated by the Holy See. The American government is no exception. The Pope, acting in his temporal office, and the Holy See and his administrative management arms, the Vatican, the Roman Curia, the British Crown, the Crown Temple, the United Nations, the Pentagon, the Vatican Bank, the Universal Postal Union, and a great many other global estate trust franchises and subsidiaries provide nearly all governmental services worldwide, in addition to their role as administrating various obligations owed to the many national trusts. The Global Estate Trust is by far the largest corporate enterprise on the earth. Indeed, the very concept of incorporation was created by the Holy See, and incorporated entities continue to be created and administered entirely under copyrights and administrative law forms of the Roman Curia. The Pope has the undisputed right to liquidate any incorporated entity that is not functioning lawfully and according to his charter. That's why it's important that you come back home as an American. He may also order disposition of corporate assets to the creditors of any incorporated entity that he liquidates. Can alter or avoid any statute possessed by any incorporated government at will. People don't see that the Global Estate Trust in the same way that they don't see the earth benefit their feet. It has always been there. They take it for granted as part of the landscape of the world, but in fact, it is a result of a tireless, conscious, determined effort expended over centuries of time. There is, in essence, one world government, and has been here throughout the development of the Northern American continent as a commercial and political power, from the earliest exploitation and colonization down to the present day. What is the National Trust and why does it matter? When a new nation is born and enters the international community as the United States of America did in 1776, a contest begins over representation of the land and its assets. Once such a contest is resolved, the Pope, acting within his temporal office, is the donor of all the assets to be held in national trust being established, formally recognize the new nation. As first step in this process, a postal district is established, and a post office is created for the seat of the government. Benjamin Franklin accomplished this step more than 20 years prior to the American Revolution. That's what I always go back to, what she said we note over 120 years ago. I'm skipping around. It said, for insight into this, read the 1850 Act of Emissions, which clearly delineates the role and identity of the original organic and unincorporated USA versus the United States, and the difference between the similarly named trust organizations and the commercial service companies. Also read the Reconstruction Act of 1867 and the Act of 1871 incorporating the municipal city-state government for the District of Columbia. When the second national trust, known as the U.S. Trust, was formed to benefit the new District of Columbia city-state in 1871, the beneficiaries named were not we, the people of the original national trust, but a mix of living people born in the District of Columbia. Other federal enclaving included Puerto Rico, American Negroes, who were never granted other citizenship than the Civil War, after the Civil War, federal employees, members of active duty military forces, and incorporated entities formed under auspices of the United States of America Minor. Unlike the United States of America Major, the United States of America Minor allows corporations organized under its auspices to be citizens, a fact that has led to no end of fraud and criminality. All citizens have only civil rights, that is, privileges granted by the U.S. Congress. This separate national entity initially operated its business affairs as the United States of America, Inc. All right, let's see what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm looking for right here. I'm going to revisit some of the things I went over before. Most importantly, I'm going to go here. We already established that the terms Native American, African American, colored, Aboriginal, Indigenous, all these are talking about the American Israelites, who they call Negro. The end of 400 years of European meddling and predation in America. It says the Constitution for the United States of America was saved and a new foundation begun. Reference the other videos that associate with this, but I'm not going to just do everything like I did before, because it's already established. The Native Americans, who are the American Israelites, that they call Negroes, African American, colored, etc., are now free to come home to the land that they were removed from. No longer POWs, they have regained their sovereignty as free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land. The United States of America and the free, sovereign, the America and the free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land of our organic states have regained their sovereignty in the international jurisdiction of the sea. For the first time since 1789, Americans are in full control of both their natural land and sea jurisdictions. We are finally home. That's why the Roman Catholic Pope removed the title of the Vicar of Christ from his title. They said only he could do that. And he did it by necessity. And the Roman Catholic Pope before him removed the title, in so many words, King of the North, of his title. Why? Because Messiah has regained the title. Israel. Just go back over to the other video. I ain't got to prove from video to video. It's already on record. It don't change from video to video. It says, do not follow any orders to harm Americans. Those who do will be tried for war crimes and face the death penalty just like the Nazis at Nuremberg. Let's continue. Just going to touch on somebody. I've already established my point early on in the video. I'm just sharing more information and revisiting some others. (673) say two different populations. They talked about probate. Folks, there are and have always been two different populations here in America. Actual current federal employees, retirees don't count as active federal employees. And federal dependents, political asylum seekers, etc., who receive actual paychecks or unearned benefits from the federal corporation are owed discharge of all franchise debts via bankruptcy. The rest of us are owed discharge of the same franchise debt via probate action. The difference is that the probate action not only discharges debts accrued by secondary beneficiaries of our estates, the franchise is operated in our names. It returns our land and our other property back to us unharmed and fully restored. If you really are a federal employee or unearned dependent, for example, someone receiving SSI who never paid into or vested in Social Security, by all means, take the bankruptcy protection and run. But if you are not a federal employee or unearned dependent, claim your estate back. The debts will all go away just the same, but you will also receive back the land and homes and businesses and other things that are rightfully yours. It's that simple. And by the way, since this place is granted to me, all rents paid to me, just put in an account. My good faith agent handle it. Claims of abatement for private auto misidentified as motor vehicles. And by the way, you still got to take care of all of everything that needs to be done. So don't be trying to put that on me. You still got to provide the service. What you're owed is called a claim of abatement. Claim on abatement. I did that before too. Basically, they have been coercing you to register your private property, car, truck, trailer, etc., which grants them an unearned ownership interest in your property. And which also, in this case, she already told you they can't do that though. Particularly after they have already said that once we come back home, all things have been returned to us without any debt, encumbrances, or any such thing. So anything they try to make you do outside of good faith is that's charged back to them. It's bad faith. Because they know better. Even if you don't know better, they know better. So they shouldn't do that to you. That's still charged back to them at this time. Basically, they have been coercing you to register your private property, car, truck, trailer, etc., which grant them an unearned ownership interest in your property, and which also, in this case, requires you to mischaracterize your private conveyance as a motor vehicle in the process. Misidentifying your car or your truck as a motor vehicle subjects it to the Motor Vehicle Code and admits on the public record that you are using your private car to engage in commerce. Commerce is business between two or more incorporated businesses. Are you an incorporated business? Are you using your car to conduct business for a corporation? Probably not. So far as you know, but unknown to you, they have also conferred a federal municipal citizenship on you and use that as an excuse to bring you under their coercive control as a person presumed to be using a motor vehicle in the interstate commerce. All these rigid and presumptions are determined to you or detrimental to you and your property interests, and forcing you to register your car with them and give them a free ownership interest in it, and forcing you to misidentify your car as a motor vehicle, which means it involved in a commercial commerce, and giving them coercive power to regulate your every move, is in fact illegal and unlawful. So if it's illegal and unlawful, what else is it? There's no other thing they can stand on. So what did they do? They provided a remedy to legalize their unlawful and illegal demands. Who was making this demand? The Federal Reserve Board of Governors. So who owes you remedy? The Federal Reserve Board of Governors. And unsurprisingly, that's who used the remedy, not the state legislature, not the county, not even the federal government. So why, generally speaking, none of those responsible for administrating state statutes know anything about any of this? Well, I can't say that. That's what she said. The remedy, which is called Regulation Z, is provided by Federal Reserve Board of Governors. They even got a license plate that you can order off. What's it called? Not eBay, but Amazon. That already come with all the remedy on it for Regulation Z. I already said I might buy one of those, or I just might make my own. You know, just to put it on the back of my private car or truck, whatever I get. I said I might, but I might just make my own though, and have them, pre-make it and let them go and design it and send it to me. The remedy, which is called Regulation Z, is provided by the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, nowadays known as J.P. Morgan Bank, As far as our research shows, Regulation Z first appears in the Federal Highway Safety Act of 1956. And the revenue raised by illegally conscripting your cars and trucks was used to build the interstate highway system. Now, all this right now is online. This is live. This is in the ether. So this is known. So how can they still do these things? They can't. And if they do, that's charged back to them. Called coercion. When they know better. But because nobody told you any of this and nobody provided you with any instruction or go-to information about this remedy, you were unaware of it. They could not access it to make a claim of on abatement. I did that a long time in 2017. And they still came and took my stuff. That is abatement of the crime against you. Remedy avoided, palmed down, obstructed, and misadministered to the benefit of the offending parties is a remedy not provided, which leaves these crimes unabated. All those parties responsible for the continued misadministration and obfuscation of the remedy remain criminally liable. That's why I'm trying to tell you, you owe me. Most I say you owe me 4 times what you taking. She just said you still criminally liable. That includes those engaged in the coercion to register our cars and trucks as vehicles, those engaged in forcing driver's licenses upon us. Driver implies commercial activity, and those engaged in enforcing these laws. They have to provide your exemption and relief, or they are crooks, subject to arrest themselves. Now, the state operators in the county of sheriffs may be disappointed by the sudden disappearance of so many revenue opportunities, but they should be taking this up with J.P. Morgan Bank, not you. And they, as the inline service providers, should be made aware of the fact that their bosses owe this remedy to you. This circumstance reflects part of an overarching pattern of concealment of remedy and avoidance of providing remedy that has been pervasive for over 100 years. The compartmentalization that keeps one part of the government, the inline service providers, such as the highway patrolmen in the state and county of courts, ignorant of what the higher ups are doing and what the higher ups owe as a remedy to you, has been used to effectively deny you the remedy you are owed. They know now because they listening. They've been doing this, but if they say they didn't know, they know because they listening. They know. As long as the enforcers are kept ignorant of the actual law and contracts that apply, the higher-ups can use them to unknowingly commit crimes against you. And that is what the higher-ups have done. That's why I say the higher-ups are allegedly not here no more, because they got found out. They have put layers of franchises and subcontractors between themselves and the public, and kept those franchises and the subcontractors ignorant of the remedies owed to the people of this country. Man, see, when you grew up in the hood like I did, you think about certain names that people use, you just think them as hood names. Country. That's really a name that's telling you who you are. You're the people of this country. What's up, country? Man, you so country. Man, you country. To all those who have been suborned in this gift collateral scheme, I suggest that you take a formal claim on abatement to the State Secretary of State, or in some states, the Lieutenant Governor. I just say, she already told you that a lot of paperwork not needed. Just get on the internet and confess who you are and claim your stuff. Believe in your heart. Confess with your mouth and believe with your heart, and you shall be saved. Because they're watching everything online. Mosiah say it'll be shouted from the rooftop to make a quick work. You may also present it to any prosecutor, defense attorney. I already did all these things before anyway. Like she's saying to do. I already done all those things. But as I gained more knowledge, I made public announcements of all these things. Share this information widely, make enough people aware of what has gone on here so that they no longer have the option of portraying you as some kind of nutcase while enforcing crimes against you. Remember, they, in this case, the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, have to provide their remedy for all this, or they are the criminals, not you. Feel free to provide this information to all and any members of the state or county or of courts and legislatures and administrations. It says, thank you for doing your public duty. Anna Maria Riesinger, she's claiming herself as something. I'm just getting the truth out of her. For the Most High's people. After all, she already said it's for the Americans. The United States of America, unincorporated. Trying to get some more. I heard somebody was talking about earlier today from Israel about rocket launcher. I don't know nobody really want that, but I need that. But under the Second Amendment, you can have a rocket launcher if you want to. I'm gonna read about it from what she said. I'm gonna. I wouldn't want a rocket launcher. I wouldn't need that. What I need that for? But I'm just saying, if you want to have one, they can't say you can't have it. As an American. Still looking for it. That's what it's taking me so long. About firearms. Everyone, let me open this up a little bit. About Firearms by Anna Von Ritz, a Roman Catholic Pope, proud attorney. Like I said, I object to anything she says that's not in favor of the Most High's people, according to his words. Because she already admitted that his word is the law of the land, the God of nature, Yahweh. It says, everyone, please pay attention so I don't have to go over all this again and again and again. Here's the facts, folks. Firearms are never described in the actual law pertaining to Americans, as opposed to the municipal code, which some people are mistaking for our public law, which does describe firearms, and the Territorial Federal Code, which also describes firearms in a slightly different context. What Americans have is the right to keep and bear arms. Our law doesn't say anything about firearms at all. On our own turf, we have the unabridged right to have, keep, bear, and use any kind of armament at all. Rifles, howitzers, slingshots, tanks, airplanes, rockets, knives, nail guns, self-propelled grenades, bombs, Molotov cocktails, drones, BB guns, machine guns, throwing axes, whatever, period. The Municipal Code, which is foreign law with respect to Americans, defines firearms. The Territorial Code, which is foreign law with respect to Americans, also defines firearms. This is yet another Semitic deceit and red herring that has its roots in the post-Civil War era, when the capital city was afraid that the U.S. Army units would use artillery and small firearms to stage a takeover. This was later amended in 1933, after the glory days of Al Capone, to firearms in the veins of rifles and Tommy guns and sawed-off shotguns used by gangsters. And none of it pertains to us at all. Municipal Code is a separate body of purely federal law that pertains solely to the administration of the municipality of Washington, D.C. Last time I looked, it is about 2,800 pages long, including definitions and addendums. It costs about $1,800 per copy, with the result that most Americans never even seen a copy of the Municipal Code. My point is that the Municipal Code was originally intended to prevent artillery and cannons from being brought into Washington, D.C., and then impact our right to keep and bear arms outside of the city limits. A separate topic at all. That's why the Municipal Code was allowed to stand, and the reason it still stands. They get the right to dictate to their own citizenry and to control their own premises, but they can in no way pass legislation affecting our rights on our turf. Rod Class made the mistake, and I told him it was a mistake to try to go into their set apart little enclave and claim his guarantees as an American. Doing that makes as much sense as going to Ireland, violating Irish law. See, she's saying things with her own mouth. The truth is, the quote-unquote Negro is the American. This is our turf, as she said. We're the ones that can have arms. If you are an American in America, your law applies. If you are an American in Ireland, their law applies. She's saying these things with her own mouth. Unless Rod Class was a quote-unquote Negro or Israelite, Rod Class might be a European. He's not an American, according to our own definitions. Rod Class was an American in the municipality of Washington, D.C., which is an independent international city-state. Their law applied, and their law defines firearms. This is all part of the patriots being confused about the nature of their federal subcontractors, and also being confused about where and when their constitutional guarantees apply. If you go into a U.S. Air Force base or anywhere on Earth, I trust that you know that you can't swagger in with a weapon. And if you do, you may be mistaken for an enemy combatant. That's an example of territorial codes applying within the perimeters of arsenals. There's also a foreign law, simply a better known foreign law, generally called federal code. The territorial federal code has grown to more than 50 separate sections called titles, covering the different topics, and it does discuss firearms, particularly in Title 27, which covers the WTF and the nuts and bolts administration of the regulatory power of that the federal subcontractors were granted by the Constitution of the United States of America to regulate. The interstate sale, transport, and manufacture of tobacco, alcohol, and firearms as a source of revenue to support the federal government. It was an early sin tax. Firearms in the 1780s meant guns with firing pans. What we call black powder guns, the federal government was supposed to eke its earning out of whatever it could raise as revenue from the interstate manufacture, sale, or transport across state lines of such firearms. They have more or less sensibly extrapolated that right to regulate firearms to include modern small arms and profit themselves from licensing them, not their owners. But once again, firearms is a topic that never finds reference to Americans standing on their own turf. The definition of firearms only appears in the either municipal or territorial terms and foreign law, and with respect to foreign jurisdiction. The municipality of Washington, D.C. is a foreign, independent, international city-state operating in global jurisdiction of the air. It's told us that we're sovereign of all jurisdictions. Talking about the American Israel. Same thing the Most High said from the beginning. The territorial government is a separate foreign British Commonwealth entity operating in the international jurisdiction of the sea. Both are foreign. Both operate under foreign law. And neither one can dictate jack diddly squat to an American standing on the land and soil of his own state of the Union, or exercising any reserve right not explicitly addressed by their respective constitutions. So long as he is standing on his own right and operating on his own turf, the municipality of Washington, D.C., as I've pointed out with monotonous regularity, is a separate international city-state, completely independent of the rest of this country. And it only has a jurisdiction of about 60-some point miles. I believe 61.8 miles or something like that. The municipality of Washington, D.C., as I have pointed out with monotonous regularity, is a separate international city-state, completely independent of the rest of this country, ruled over by members of the United States Municipal Congress, acting as a plenary obligatory, and it is set apart and allowed to function in this manner by Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. The capital city, see, that's the city-state the Revelation talking about has been destroyed. That great city, that's what he's talking about. And nothing at all going to be found anymore at all in her. But that's not America. The capital city does not belong to us, Americans. And it never has. It was set up this way on purpose, both to invite foreign investment to bear the cost of building it. and to provide a meeting place where members of all 50 states could gather on neutral ground. The Municipal Code of Washington, D.C. applies to all corporations formed in Washington, D.C., which is the only reason that this topic bears much discussion at all with respect to firearms or anything else. She keep on mentioning somebody that I don't know nothing about. Like I said, I object to anything she says that's not in regard to the Most High's people, the Americans, called Israelites. I mean, he calls Israelites that they call Negroes or African Americans. Rod class made the mistake of bringing firearms, according to their municipal code definition, into their foreign enclave and thinking that their law doesn't apply on their turf. He apparently thought that this constitutional guarantees were owed to him everywhere on earth. See, but he's not an American Israelite. But a little thought will prove that this is not true, nor is it reasonable to assume. Do you have any sacred right to keep and bear arms on the island of Bali? Don't you grant that the Balinese would have something to say about that? And if they didn't want you to have a 357 tucked in your arm during your vacation stay for a year for fear that you might use it against their people, wouldn't they as a foreign government have a right to impound your weapon? If you snuck your weapon past their border guards and custom agents in spite of their effort to clearly post and give notice to their restrictions, wouldn't they have a right to charge you with such crimes as willful criminal mischief, even if you left your gun unlocked or open in a gun case the whole time? Of course they would. And it's the same with Washington, D.C. And she just said Washington, D.C. ain't got nothing to do with America or Americans. We can. I can carry any kind of weapon, arm I want. Therefore, what they did to me was a damn shame and a crime against humanity. And he said, and she just told you they still liable. The municipal officials threw the book at Rod Class, and they had little right to. Well, I don't know about Rod Class, because the Rod Class don't sound like a American Israelite. Unless she just making up a name to give her example. I warned him before he did it and told him why. But he was a bonehead and went sashaying into Washington, D.C. with a couple of deer rifles and God knows what in his trunk. He's lucky he got out alive. And though I love him dearly, he still is a bonehead and hasn't learned any of the lessons I've tried to teach him. Complete with evidentiary proof, how hard is it, after all, to read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, when someone points it out to you and take in the meaning of plenary oligarchy. Until people stop screwing around and learn to drive on their own side of the road, see, she still slipped up, but I know what she's talking about. Travel on their own side of the road. She said driving means you working for a living. I caught that word right there. But still, I have the right to travel in America or any of the de jure states in the world, countries in the world, de jure states in America. Every American needs to learn and needs to know for certain that the federal government is being run by foreign subcontractors. When I say foreign, I mean foreign in the same sense that Spain is foreign to Denmark. They operate under foreign law called codes and statutes and regulations. They operate in foreign, international, and global jurisdictions that most Americans have no reason to visit, except perhaps as tourists. The territorials were granted a right to regulate. They were granted. And to profit from the interstate manufacture, sales, or transport of firearms, and so they will, within reason, update the meaning of the firearms into the modern world, and they will regulate away with gusto every time there is manufacture, sale, or transport of small arms across state borders. They can also license federally regulated goods. They can also license their own citizenry with or without the specific regulatory authority. But it is severely doubtful that their regulatory authority extends to licensing Americans when those Americans are standing on their own soil. When I went to go buy the firearms they took, when I went to go get that, they tried to get me to take a test. As far as to get a license, I didn't need it. First of all, I was a retired peace officer with authorization to carry anyway. But being an American, they can't make me take a test to get an arm, buy an arm. And if I'd have known what I knew now, they sold me I'll say a rifle that didn't have any. It was I'll put it this way: free open fire. But they tried to put on U.S. regulations and tried to put make it less able to fire at will, and they tried to I forget what it's called, when they put like a block on the open fire and just make you can reload temporarily. I can't think of what the term I'm looking for right now. A little tired. But they had the right to do that. It says, so far as I know, the question of federal regulatory authorities to license Americans to do anything at all, and I do mean anything on their own turf, has never been breached in the Supreme Court of the United States. But it certainly should be, because the federales of both stripes have been trespassing against us, usurping against our people by registering and licensing activities of common right without authority to do so. That is a topic worthy of fighting over. The right of the municipality of Washington, D.C. to ban firearms within their own city boundaries is not a worthy topic to even debate. The right of the territorial government to regulate interstate manufacture, sale, and transport of alcohol, tobacco, and firearm is another don't bother me with it topic. Read your constitutions and you can see for yourselves exactly what they allowed and not allowed, what they are allowed and not allowed. Stand aside and let them do what they are clearly allowed to do, and stomp on them if they cross the line and trespass. It is really as simple and as difficult as that. The municipal denizens were gifted with a plenary oligarchy on our eastern seaboard. And until we get angry enough with their shenanigans and to boot them into the sea, Well, allegedly, all that is already happening and happened. And reclaimed the ground under the city. And she already acknowledged that did happen, that the Americans, Israelites, have regained sovereignty in all jurisdictions. Which still belongs to Maryland and Virginia, by the way. That's their turn. The territorial federales can regulate and profit from the interstate sale, manufacture, or transport of exactly 3 commodities. If they try to extend their pause to include other commodities or include activities take place in non-interest environments like your backyard, tell them where to get off and do it in no uncertain terms. Most of all, make it crystal clear that you're an American and not any species of municipal or territorial person at all. And record your political status as an American who is owed every jot of constitutions, and then learn when and where constitutional guarantees apply so that you don't wind up in jail or worse. See, I put that on the record too. I already let them know that. And they did that to me in 2017. And they still liable, according to her, the Roman Catholic Pope. Let's see where we're going now. I'm going to end it on this one. Returning to this one right here. Now I'm going to go to one more after this. Well, we've all been conned. This is Anna Divine Retz, Roman Catholic Pope, proud attorney. Black people, you've been conned. Well, we've all been conned, but you've been conned more than the rest of us. Why would you say something like that? Because you already know we're the American Israelites. This is our land. Everything she's written about and confessed by the Roman Catholic Pope is all about us. The true Americans. From everything I've seen, Martin Luther King Jr. took a half a loaf and a grant of civil rights, and that at least temporarily prevented recognition of the natural and inalienable rights actually owed to black people. Maybe he thought that half of a loaf was better than none. Maybe he saw it as a stepping stone to eventually have the natural and inalienable rights of all people fully recognized and honored. We'll never know what MLK knew or what he thought about this issue, but certain other things are sure. It's certain that the Democratic Party that so many black and colored people identify with and support has in fact been primarily political opponents for decades. Look at the history, look at the voting record. It was Democrats that engineered confirmed municipal citizenship on black people following the Civil War. So it always goes back to that, over 150 years ago. Everything she's talking about is us. And our true birthright political status is American Israelites. An American, by definition, is really still talking about the same copper-colored people. It was Democrats that engineered confirmed municipal citizenship on black people following the Civil War, effectively making them publicly owned slaves instead of privately owned slaves. It was Democrats who substituted civil rights for natural and inalienable rights too. Civil rights are merely privileges conferred by the municipal Congress. and they can be taken away from the municipal Congress on a whim. That's because it's a corporation. But your natural and inalienable rights come from nature, and nature's God, Yahweh. Think about it. You've been snookered. What did she say? Who she was talking to? Black people who are really, in their true identity, American Israelites. But look what she said. But your natural, and when she's talking about the American Israelites, but your natural and inalienable rights come from nature, and nature's God. That's what she just told you that. Think about it. You've been snookered. You don't need municipal citizenship. It was conferred on you, but you never needed it. Why? Because you're an American. And if you knew what it entailed, you would never want it either. You can choose to exercise your birthright political status as Americans instead. And you can be truly, she just told you, if you call yourself black, it's to your advantage to at least claim that you're an American. That's who you are. And the Most High said you're an Israelite. And they know it. You can choose to exercise your birthright political status as Americans instead. You can be truly free and have your natural and inalienable rights respected and protected. You can claim your own assets for your own benefit. Like every other American, you simply need to know that you have that choice, and then you need to make it. All right, let's see where else I'm headed. Retired means retired. By Anna Von Resch, Roman Catholic Post, proud attorney. Once you're retired, and that's that. You're owed your pension and health insurance from the government corporation in the same way that you will be owed your pension and health insurance from IBM or Walmart or IEI. You do not have any further obligation to the corporation. You can live wherever, in whatever jurisdiction you wish. You simply have to make a choice: freedom or continued slavery. Having made that choice, you inform the state secretary of state that you're retiring from any presumption of the United States citizenship or enfranchisement or returning to your natural birthright status. You don't lose anything. You simply change your political status. You surrender the municipal person created by the British certificate, the birth certificate, back to the Secretary of Treasury. You rescind your voter's registration and you record the simple improved act of exportation. See, that's actually what they was doing, testing me on that when they arrested me. They wanted me to try to go to their courts and catch me slipping. But I did have enough sense when I went in there. I objected to going to their court, And they had people on standby at that time trying to get me to say that I was a sovereign citizen, which is an oxymoron. You can't be a sovereign and a citizen. But I had enough sense at that time to even know that, though, based on the Most High's truth. So since they couldn't get me that way, they had the woman from the church to make that accusation, that false accusation against me, and then use their bandits to come in and kidnap me and take my stuff. But they still liable because they know they did it. It's on the record. You don't lose anything. You simply change your political status. You surrender the municipal person created by the birth certificate back to the Secretary of the Treasury. You rescind your voter's registration. And you record the simple and proved act of expropriation that also covers your domicile and your allegiance to the land jurisdiction state. You inform your bank that your account is a private account. I've done all those things. And all funds transferred and deposited must be denoted as lawful money. I went over that in the last video, that I'm able to use even their notes and it is counted as lawful money. You put a label "retired not for hire" on the back of your driver's license, which is their license. You buy forever tags for your license plate and unregister your car. As a former federal civil service employee, you will have to continue to pay federal income taxes on that portion of your pension that actually comes from federal employment. If you worked for the federal government your whole life, you will have to pay income taxes on the whole amount. If you are in private employment for 30 years and the bulk of your pension is based on that, you only pay federal taxes on the portion derived from later federal employment. For most people whose only federal employment may have been a 2-year stint as a young man in the military, the amount of their pension derived from such slight attachment to the federal corporation is negligible, and they don't have to pay federal income taxes at all and are naturally exempt. You have not been taught any of this because it was to their advantage of these foreign corporations that you never learned it and never exercise your exemptions and never be free. It is to their advantage if they can take and take and take and never have to pay back anything. As a citizen, you are at their mercy and have to accept whatever they give you, just as any slave must. As an American, you are guaranteed their service and protection and are owed all the guarantees of the original Constitution. If you are born in this country, according to the Most High, you got to be an American, an Israelite, under his covenant. Because she said all natural and unalienable rights come from the God of nature. That's what she said. Speaking of that Roman Catholic Pope, so I ain't lied to you. So if the God of nature didn't include you under his covenant, you're not the American that she's talking about. First Kings 6:13. And I will dwell among the children of Israel, and I will not forsake my people Israel. Matthew 15:24, but he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Ezekiel 39:7, so I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people, Israel. And I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am the law, the Holy One in Israel. Joel 2:27, and you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the law, your God, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. So, there we have it. All praises to the Most High. All praises to his holy name.